So you saw a picture of a wind turbine right next to a house. Can they really do that?
You and I have an insatiable appetite for electricity. Come with me and we'll look at the issues relative to wind farms and the communities that they serve. This is the Windfarm Guy.
Hi, this is Dennis Stout and thank you for joining me for this episode of the Windfarm Guy. There is a lot of information about wind turbines on the internet. Some articles make crazy claims and show pictures of turbines that look like they're right next to homes. How can companies get away with that? Nobody wants a wind turbine right next to their home, right? Okay, let's look at this realistically. No, wind turbines cannot be placed right next to a residence. Let me explain. Turbines have what is called tip height. This is the measurement of the turbine's height at its tallest point. That would be when one of the blades is at 12 o'clock. It's essentially the sum of the hub height at the top of the tower and half of the rotor diameter. Side note, all measurements in the wind industry are using the metric system. The industry started in Europe, and that's what the rest of the world uses anyway. Now, each of the wind turbine models have different specs, so any information you learn about your wind turbine is turbine specific and may not be true for turbines in another area. So, if the hub is say 120 meters high and the rotor diameter is, 100 meters, half of that is 50 meters, then the tip height is 120 plus 50, which equals to 170 meters. Why is it important to know that number? A wind turbine will not ever be placed within that radius around a house. Insurance companies and counties would likely have much to say about that if it were tried. Insurance companies don't want the home to be damaged in the event of a major failure, and counties often have a wind ordinance in place for the same reason. This wind ordinance would likely have a setback distance around homes very specifically described. It could be an actual number, or more commonly, a formula, like 1.25 times the tip height, or 1.5 times the tip height. So if the county says the house setback is 1.25 times the tip height, using the previously mentioned turbine spec, then that 170 meter tip height times 1.25 becomes 212.5 meters, which translates to about 700 feet. The taller the turbine, the further the required setback. Most wind companies have an internal setback for homes that could be 1,500 feet or more. Rest assured, turbines are not being placed next to occupied homes. So, how do they produce those pictures and even video showing a turbine that looks like it's right in the backyard of a house? Well, today there are at least two ways. One is plain old photoshopping. Photography software today is so good, this is rather easy and the end result is amazingly realistic. They take a picture of a house and a picture of a turbine and just plug the turbine wherever they want. The other way involves a little bit of optical trickery using a telephoto lens. I'm sure you've seen pictures of a structure, say the Washington Monument, with the moon beside it, and the moon looks huge. It literally looks like the moon is right there beside it. That's done by capitalizing on the lens's perspective distortion. By setting up the shot in a particular way and using functions within the lens and camera, the resulting picture kind of compresses that distance and will make the background look close to the foreground. It makes the moon look like it's right beside the Washington Monument. It's a pretty cool photography trick. That same technique makes a wind turbine look like it's right beside the house. Set the equipment up in a certain way, and voila. This technique makes it appear that the house and the turbine are next to each other, but they are not. This is just a misleading manipulation. Keep in mind that pictures tell a story. Photographers are trained to compose their picture to best tell the story that they want to tell. This technique is widely used by folks not in favor of wind energy. They're telling the story that they prefer, trying to convince people that the turbines are right next to houses and creating a danger. Yes, it's deceiving and it's fear-mongering, but it happens anyway. If you like what I've said today, be sure and click like and subscribe below. If you have thoughts or want me to address a particular topic relative to wind farms, please also leave me a comment. So, to recap, utility-scale wind turbines cannot be placed right beside a house. They just can't. Often there are ordinances in place with required setbacks, but even if there is no ordinance, it would be wrong and unwise to site a turbine next to a house. Wind companies want to be good neighbors and a positive part of the community, and they work hard to site turbines in the best way, and next to a house is not best. If you see a picture where a turbine is right next to a house, just know that something is amiss. Some sort of photographic deception, like using Photoshop or perspective distortion, was used. Let not your heart be troubled. Turbines are not being sited in someone's backyard. Unless, of course, they have like a couple 100-acre backyard, and if that's the case, the turbine will be way out there with the deer and the cattle, and the landowner will be on their back patio having a glass of tea and enjoying that passive revenue stream. This is Dennis Stout, and I'm the Windfarm Guy.
Thank you for watching. Working together, we can make good energy decisions and save our planet. I am the Windfarm Guy.